Welcome back, YouTube. It's Josh here, and we're back with another Swift tutorial. In this one, we'll be going over polymorphism, which is another principle of OOP, also used in POP, and I'll explain both of those today for you to understand. Now, polymorphism is tough to understand, also tough to say, but we're going to go ahead and break it down, and once I show you some of these samples, I think it's going to start making more sense, and you're going to be a better coder for it. So let's go ahead and dive in. So let's look real quick at this definition of what polymorphism is and read that out. So polymorphism allows us to interact with multiple types through a single uniform interface. So in the object-oriented world or programming world, the single uniform interface that we're talking about above usually comes from a superclass, which I'll go over in detail on that. Now, later on in the video, we're going to see POP or protocol-oriented programming. And in that world, that single interface that we're talking about usually comes from a protocol. And typically, your biggest decision on this, as you're working with protocols, you're going to see it more of a horizon and your code go out this way versus if you're using OOP and polymorphism, it's going to more go vertically and longer. So there's a time and place for each. I personally like POP better with polymorphism and using protocols. But again, I'll show you both ways and you make your own decision there. Pros and cons for each. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm not going to write out each of these classes. I'm going to cut and paste from most of my other a playground that I have pulled up, just so we can speed up the video on the whole typing. And then it gives me more time to explain to you. So let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to start out with act like our app or our company is a construction company. But right now we mainly just work with Windows. And our owner wants us to go ahead and create a part of our app that shows when a customer's Windows and how much the windows are actually going to cost based on the color. Pretty easy. What we would do as far as the color goes in this case, we would just make an enum, and let me get down to that real quick for you guys. Sorry about that. So we would just make our enum, and I'm just going to do a few colors here so we have it. So that's going to be our product color. So based on the color, and all this is pretend, it's just giving you guys a real world example that you can kind of relate to. A lot of the examples I saw was like vehicles or animals, or I think I saw one on bikes, but I want to give you something that you may actually encounter. You work at a construction company. This may be something similar to what we'll do here. Anyways, no more rambling. Let's get to it. So we have our enum of our colors here. Now we're going to go ahead, and since we're only working with Windows right now, let's go ahead and create a class for our boss. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that guy over here. And this class, what's going to do is it's going to pass in a product color, and that's going to be of type product color. And it's going to standard be black. So all product is going to be black in this case. But we can choose to change it. Now, the next thing is the cost. The cost is going to be an integer. And we're going to set that in this function called total cost. And all that's doing is passing one parameter. And we're going to do a little switch statement here. And basically saying, hey, if the window is black, the cost is going to be 200. So the window is going to be 200. Cost is 300 if it's red, 500 if it's blue, 300 is green, 900 if it's yellow. So we're able to show the customer in this app, essentially, hey, depending on what color window you have, this is how much it's going to cost. Cool, everything is great. Now, the work's going great here at this company, and now the boss is like, you know what, windows are great, let's add doors. We're going to start doing a ton of doors. So now I need to show the customers that use our app how much the doors are going to cost depending on the color. And you're like, no problem. We'll go ahead and make a class for that as well. And it's going to literally be the same thing, except, the prices might be a little different because doors are more expensive than windows typically. but most of this is exactly the same. Now this isn't too bad. You have two classes here, but what happens when you start adding other things like drywall and taping and shingles and decks and roofs, everything that goes into construction, you're going to have a new class every single time. And you can see how that could become a mess. So that is where polymorphism comes into play. Check out what you can do now. So instead of having the windows and doors, I'm going to go ahead and close this. But I'm going to leave them here for a second. Now we're going to bring in a class called product, because that's really what this is. This is the product. So let me uncomment this. And what this is going to do is we're going to have a function, which is exactly what we had up here. And then we're going to have the same variables here. So it's essentially the same thing we just had, but we're going to put it in a product class. So now we can inherit that. So let's go ahead and make a new product. This one is going to be, I'm just going to copy the door one real quick. Hold that back up just to show you guys, save some space and show you guys. And right here, we're going to do it again, but this is going to be called drywall. And drywall now is going to inherit product if I knew how to type. So now it's going to take product. Everything is working there. Now, actually, we're going to go ahead and copy this because we're going to need it in a minute. But now we are going to get rid of that because we don't need it. All we need to do now is get this total cost here. So if we do find total cost, you'll see it. We'll go ahead and hit that and you'll see this wonderful word called override. So because this is now the child class, because we're inheriting product, and this is now the parent class, we are going to override whatever this function says. So we can change the code. So depending on what the product is, your logic might need to be different. For instance, up here, doors were a little bit more expensive than windows, so you can change that price. So we can do that same thing here. So I'm going to paste that code in, and we're just going to make up something for drywall. $35 if it's black, $44 if it's red, $50, $80, and then we'll keep this at $100. Cool. So product is done, our drywall is done, everything is going good. So now all you have to do is inherit that product and use polymorphism, and we can override that function and do what we want here. And we can either print out like, hey, this is drywall. And then if it was paint, hey, this is paint. We literally can have it doing something else, but using the same function. And that is the whole concept of polymorphism. Now it gets really, really technical and you can get super into it, and because it is a very, very powerful concept, but that in a sense is what is going on and what it is. I hope that hopefully that makes sense. Now let's go ahead and throw a little curveball to you. So let's say, we have drywall here, and let's just say I went ahead and instead of making these their own class, I inherited product in each of these two. So we have a window, a door, and drywall. Okay, now let's add another thing to this. So let's add taping. So we are going to add this function inside of drywall because only certain products are going to need taping. So let's do it here. We'll fold up this override function here, and we're going to make a new function called time to tape. So how long it takes. So what this is going to pass in is the number of drywall sheets. That's going to be a double. It's going to return a double. And we're just going to say, hey, return number of drywall sheets times 0.5. And that is going to be the time basically it takes to tape your product or your project. So if there was 5, let's say 10. If there was 10 sheets of drywall times 0.5, so that is going to take it down to 50. Let's just say 50 hours is what we would bill for that. That's kind of the concept I was going with this. I know it's not real, but I'm trying to make it as real as possible. So that function, though, only needs to happen with products that need tape. So if we go here, great, that works. We can now do the override method here, and then we can have our time to tape here. Great. Now let's make a brand new class And this one we're going to say is a paint class. So we're going to do class again. And we're going to name this paint. And paint is going to take in product. But we need this time to tape as well, right? So we're going to do a comma. And we're going to do drywall as well because we need to grab that function too, because time to tape is also part of painting. Hey, how long did it take to tape the room before you started painting it? Makes sense. However, you'll easily and very quickly see we get an error doing this. Hey, you can't inherit multiple inheritance from classes. So we can't do more than one. You can only inherit one of these classes. So doing product and drywall, we get this big fat error. So we have an issue here. To solve this, I can tell you real quick, we can go ahead and copy this function, get it out of here, go back up to product here, and we can pass this in. We can pass this in here, and then we can go ahead and override the function here, kind of like we did up here. So let's do time to tape, since this is a type of that, and then we can go ahead and add this return statement right here. And we don't need it inside this product class because we're not doing the math there. So we have that function there, but now we're able to override this just like we did here, and it's working. Great. But as your app gets more complex and your classes get more complex, doing it this way might lead you into putting, like, time to tape makes sense being put here, but sometimes you're going to be putting functions inside a product or class that doesn't need to go together. They don't fit, but you're just doing that because you can only inherit from one. So how do you fix that? And that is one con coming from the OOP side with polymorphism and inheriting with classes. So how do you fix that, and what can you do? Well, you can use protocols. So earlier and up here, we were talking a little bit about protocol-oriented programming world. The single interface usually comes from a protocol. So we can make a protocol to fix all this. So let's do that real quick. We're going to call this protocol. And all you, if you're not familiar with protocols, the keyword protocol before what you're doing is how you create this. So let's go ahead and make a protocol called taping. Capitalize that. And then inside of this protocol, we are going to have this function here. So I'm just going to copy this from here. And I'm actually going to delete it here, and we're going to delete it out of here as well. So, and then we're going to comment this out for just a second. So go back up here just to get rid of all these errors. Go back up here. We're going to paste this function time to tape. We are just going to make it a function, and we are not going to return. I mean, you could return a double, but we're not going to. We're just going to do just a simple function just so you get the basics of it. And now we can come down here to this paint class, and it's already getting the product, so we can find the total and override that. And we can, I'm not going to do it again, but you can put this, I'll make this big real quick so you guys can see. We can do this switch statement right here in our paint, just like we've been doing. So do a logic here. But now, since we have this protocol we made up here, oh, I did the wrong one. I apologize. This is going to be this protocol called taping. So let's go ahead and throw taping in here now. And there's not a certain amount that you can use as far as protocols. You can have as many protocols in here as you want or need. It's not like the classes where you can only inherit one class. So look at this real quick. It says, hey, paint now does not conform to the protocol taping. Why? Well, if you look up here at taping, we have this nice little function here. And we do not have that function in here. So we can easily click on this, and it'll actually show us exactly what's wrong. There's a function there, and we can do our code here. So we can do that logic from time to tape and fill, and I'm not going to do it again, but logic goes here. But you see now we're able to get this function and we're able to get this function. But another thing comes to mind here. We have a class product and then another class paint. And one main thing between classes and structs is inheriting. Well, if you don't need to inherit anything, like this isn't a UI button where you need to grab all the information or all the logic and things from UI button with a custom button. These are little classes that we created. We don't need it to be a class of paint. We can make this a struct. And also, I'm going to get a lot of errors here, so I'm going to go ahead and comment this class out. And we're going to go ahead and comment these out. Actually, I lie. I want them small, so we don't need to since they're not inheriting product. But product, we are now going to make a protocol as well. So we're going to take this to be a protocol. Okay, we're going to get rid of these brackets because we don't need them. We can pass this product color here. We will do this like this, and we will, instead of setting this to black, we're going to make it of type product color, and then we're going to do a getter and a setter. So we're going to do get set. So we can now use this. And then that is now a protocol that should get rid of all of our warnings. There we go. Now it's no longer a class, so we are not inheriting. But now down here, we don't need this override because it's not a function from a class anymore. Now we're going to get another alert here saying, hey, you need to add these stubs because we just created those. So now you automatically get this product color here, and you get to find the total cost here. So now again, we can do the logic here. And you are on your way to starting out POP programming with polymorphism, and that is a lot cleaner in my opinion. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you can see because we have a protocol for taping, and then we'll have a protocol for product and a protocol for this, it's going to start going out this way. Whereas before, we are inheriting here and then inheriting here, and it gets longer this way. So it's really your decision. Both of them can work and will work. It's just really up to you to decide which one works best for you and which one you like more. Protocols are a lot cleaner. You got rid of the classes now, which Swift or Apple does recommend. If you can use a struct over a class, do it, because structs are value types versus reference types like classes. And if we're not inheriting, you know, that's the best route. I'm not going to get all into that. There is videos out there for that. But you solved a whole bunch of issues by making this a protocol versus just inheriting from another class. And again, if it's a basic app, you know, this might doing polymorphism with OOP might be the best thing for you. But as it gets complex, you know, or you know it's going to get bigger and more complex, starting with that POP might be the best route. I mean, polymorphism with POP might be the best route. And that, I guarantee, will be an interview question at some point. I've been asked it at least 10 times in interviews, so I'm sure you will too. And that's going to do it for us for this video. I hope you learned something and polymorphism isn't as scary as it was prior, and you feel more comfortable and know what's kind of going on behind the wheels. So if it was beneficial, hit that like button. If you want to see my upcoming content, hit the bell. And if you have not yet, please subscribe to the channel, as it does help me get my content out to others. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.